Welcome back, everybody, to the newest episode of Cake Bites. I'm super excited about this week's guest because the game that he's involved with was the first game that got me really interested in esports and got me connected to the gaming industry really at large. So Chris Hopper is the head of esports at Riot for North America. And he's been with Riot really since the LCS started, and he shares the history of it from his perspective and how the NALCS has really changed throughout the years. And he talks about the World Championship Series that is going on right now. It started on October 1st, and finals are on November 3rd, which is the same day that I'll be taking part in the Extra Life Gaming Marathon for charity. I will be gaming for 24 hours, and all of the money that I raise between now and then is going to be going to the Children's Miracle Network. I'll have links to the League of Legends World Championship Series schedule in the show notes on cakebites.com, as well as a link to my Extra Life campaign so you can take a look. Yeah, I think that's it for now. So without further ado, here is Chris Hopper. I guess to get started, Chris.
You can call me Chopper if it's easier.
Chopper, do you have a preference?
Everybody at Riot calls me Chopper.
Okay.
There were way too many Chris's born in the mid '80s, so it's usually the more unique name.
Chopper, it is. So Chopper, how did you get started with Riot?
So I actually got started with Riot by playing League of Legends.
The dream.
The dream came true. I was living in New York after I finished my graduate degree at University of Virginia. I was doing some financial consulting in New York, and ironically enough, my manager at that company had picked up League in beta and was really a avid player and didn't want to stop playing when we should be doing work. And when I was on his team, I would remind him that, like, hey, we needed to do work. And he would say, like, no, let's play League of Legends. And so that brought me into playing League of Legends as a means of diversion. So I started playing with him and all of his buddies. So they were all level 30 and I was level 1, had never played a MOBA before. And so started playing support Malphite with them just because it was the tankiest thing that was free. Played a lot of support Malphite going up to 30. I mean, this was pre-season 1 competitive, so like there was no established meta. So we'd run like Gangplank, Master Yi bot lane, and it was glorious. And then it turned out that one of his buddies who he played with became one of Riot's first NBA interns. And he was here in summer of 2012 and knew that Riot was spinning up an esports department. He knew that I was starting to think about moving on from the consulting firm. And so he put my name in for the esports team. And, several conversations and interviews later, I ended up, getting the job offer. So it was ironically like because of League and because of my manager that I ended up leaving the company that I had been working at and came to Riot. And 6 years later, still I'm here.
And what was your boss's reaction when you left to go work for Riot? I just need to know.
Oh, he was super excited. I mean, he knew that I was kind of nearing the end of my time at that place, and that I was, looking for a new opportunity, and the opportunity to come and how passionate I am for gaming, how passionate I am for sports. The cross section of the two was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. So he was super excited. He's a very good buddy of mine, and was supportive throughout.
Oh, that's amazing. And you started. When was that?
November 2012.
And so that wasn't that long after Riot had announced the actual LCS, right?
Yes, announced but had not planned.
Okay, so were you involved in that planning process then?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I came on board, I mean, I basically accepted an offer like the Monday after the Season 2 World Championships. Wow. And so I came on board pretty quickly, and we were working on the format of the league. We were working on the qualifier format. We were working on the rule set, the team agreements, Pretty much all aspects were up in the air, and I was lucky enough to be able to work on a lot of that stuff.
And in regards to like the team aspect, were there already teams that were really interested in joining the LCS, or was it a variety of players that were put together as a result of the LCS announcement?
So throughout 2012, there had been kind of a tournament circuit throughout North America. So you had loosely organized teams, and you kind of had a spectrum. You had very loosely organized teams where it would be like 5 buddies who showed up for a tournament, up to TSM, who at that point already had a gaming house. They were already on contracts. They all showed up in jerseys. Like they were kind of on the more professional end of the spectrum. So there were already a pretty wide gamut of teams that we knew would be interested in joining, and we were only bringing 8 into the initial league. So what we did was we took 3 from the 3 teams that had auto-qualified out of the North American Regional for Worlds 2012. And so those 3 teams joined automatically, and then we had another 5 teams that joined us through a multi-day qualifier that we ran in the end of December.
Okay. And do you happen to know those teams off the top of your head?
I'm
sure. I'm just curious.
TSM was one. I want to say was Dignitas and CLG. Yeah.
Yes.
TSM Curse TSM Dignitas and CLG, because Curse made it through in the qualifier.
And in that first season of the LCS, how did that run for you guys?
Like a whirlwind. It was invigorating. Everyone felt like we were kind of on the cutting edge of something. And so, there was an incredible energy and presence to the studio. There was an incredible energy within the team, despite the fact that we were working, ungodly hours. And, it was kind of fun because everyone, had to wear different hats. So, while I was working on a lot of the league operations items, I was also helping to produce a lot of our web content. And so I was editing a lot of our web content because we were doing both the North American and EU broadcasts out of the Los Angeles office. So wow. I was editing content about the EU LCS and then reffing games the next day. And that, it was a total whirlwind. But, from the beginning of the season, we knew that we were going to the Staples Center for the Season 3 World Championships. So, from the very start, we knew that we were building towards this massive end product. And so it was kind of this constant inspiration, this constant, cause that we took on to keep pushing and make sure that the product was in line and make sure that, the league was great and that we were building this excitement, because there was a feeling that like we couldn't disappoint that opportunity. We couldn't go to Staples and not crush it. And so, it was a long year. I think a lot of people look back on it fondly, but also would never do it again. But, we learned so much about what we were doing. We made countless mistakes, and improved upon them over time. We hired in a ton of what became the core of this team. So, it was a mad sprint for 12 months, but at the end of it, it was an incredible feeling of an accomplishment. And, one of the best, the proudest moments of my career will always be, hearing the countdown to 0 for the start of show at Staples, because, it was just such a massive effort by everyone on the team to pull that off.
Absolutely. And the Staples Center is one of those venues that I feel like people were in disbelief that that the World Championships were going to be at the Staples Center and fill it to capacity. Were you involved in getting the Staples Center for the World Championships by any chance?
So I wasn't involved in booking the venue. I was involved in obviously working the event to a heavy capacity. And I can certainly tell you that, while we were there, it was, as much as we were pinching ourselves that like we're on the same stage that's, sold out for, all sorts of different artists. I think the venue staff were pinching themselves too, going, wait, this is a video game tournament? And, the great thing about it is, for the overwhelming majority of the venues that we've been at, they've been incredibly welcoming. And so while they might not understand, they're willing to work with us, and they're willing to kind of try and work through our complicated cosplay security needs, and understand that our fans are going to come in, and it can be a 5 to 6 hour show sometimes, so like you should probably double your concessions because we ate the Air Canada Center out of poutine. We do things differently with events, and every time we go, we try and help brief the venue on like, here's the things that you've probably never seen before, and our fans never disappoint. But Staples Center was great. It was great working with those guys. That's actually why we came back in 2016 for our World Championships again. It's such an iconic venue. It means so much to us. The LA fans are obviously great, and it's such an easy venue to travel to. So. It's always going to be kind of a special night for the team.
The thing that really set League of Legends apart, it seems, aside from things like selling out the Staples Center, is Riot's baseline salary for players. The support that Riot has put towards their players. It seems like you guys kind of jumped on that early on as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we wanted to make very clear when we first started the LCS in 2013 was that we wanted our players to be professional. And to us, that meant that we had to ensure that they were able to make a sufficient living off of the esport, that they could afford to concentrate on that. We didn't necessarily want part-time students or, people who had to have a job on the side, be a bartender, be something else. We wanted to create a lifestyle that was not only sufficient for players to concentrate on, but was also aspirational for younger players to try and build towards. So that's why we instituted the minimum salary provisions that we did from the very beginning and increased them over time, was because we wanted to make sure that, being a professional was something that gave you proper reward for your effort, your dedication, your talent.
I wanted to bring that up because I feel like people see the prize pools that are available in tournaments. Even people are freaking out about the Fortnite $100 million prize pool, which is amazing. But those prize pools are great, but if there's no long-term support for the players, I feel like the longevity of that esports avenue is severely diminished if your players can't continue to get better.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of our thinking, was we wanted to create an environment where teams were able to invest in their players were able to invest in getting better, and everyone was working towards the long term. There's other esports that have taken different models. You look at the, Dota 2 and how they kind of pile everything into the international, and, if you win that, you had a great year, and everyone's set for that. But below the top 4 or 5 teams there, you probably don't have any teams in Dota that are earning as much as, the average team in the NALCS. So, it just kind of depends on how you want to distribute the economics across, the top, middle, and bottom part of your professional ecosystem.
And so building on that change, that structure change in the LCS, and expanding the teams that next year, and then even starting the championship points, it seems like you guys kind of did a restructure right there when you did the expansion. Mm-hmm. Can you explain how you felt that changed the structure for the better?
Yeah, we brought the extra 2 teams on because we had looked at the competitiveness of the Challenger teams, and we found that there were some pretty good teams that were sitting in Challenger and were fighting their way up, and we just determined that there was the competitive depth to allow us to create 2 more teams at that LCS level. Cloud9 was a Challenger team. We saw these incredible teams coming out and, just putting on such compelling performances. So, for us, it was about rewarding the competitive depth of the region and, creating more teams that we felt fans would be able to engage with. It allowed us to kind of create more content, because at the time we were in a double round robin best of 1. So it allowed us to kind of create more games and push more games through to the players. Circuit points was really kind of a decision that was made in an attempt to balance the perceived importance of the spring and summer split. A lot of people pointed to the summer split and said, well, that's really kind of the only one that matters. If you win that one, you go straight to Worlds, and it's just such a recency thing that, being good in summer, being good in spring almost doesn't matter. It's like whether you want to go to MSI or not, but at the time that wasn't perceived as, enough to merit really going as hard as you could for the entire year. And so you'd see teams that would kind of deliberately wait to like ramp up their practice schedules, ramp up their, coaches' efforts and everything until the summer. And we wanted to see that kind of an effort year round. So we instituted circuit points or championship points in order to create more of an incentive for finishing higher in spring. By offering more points towards Worlds, which is the end-all goal for pretty much every team in the league, we felt like we were going to be creating a proper incentive that would encourage them to try hard throughout the year rather than just for part of it.
And it was around that time, too, that it seemed like you guys were holding some of your qualifying events during major other events in North America, like PAX. And then you guys made the change to holding those events in standalone venues like Madison Square Garden. Did that have to do with the size of the events or the popularity of the events? Or I just feel like that must have been a pretty
abrupt change.
Yeah. Because instead of kind of riding on the excitement, not that you needed to, but of a major event like PAX, and then kind of drumming up the excitement of your own huge standalone event, it seems like quite a difference.
It was absolutely a huge difference. I think so. We were at PAX for the 2012, 2013, and 2014 summer playoffs. And PAX was a great venue, obviously a great crowd there, people who are incredibly passionate about gaming, people who are incredibly passionate about League. What we realized was a couple things. One, we couldn't really put on the show that we wanted to at PAX. For one, just being in a convention hall is kind of difficult to create a great viewing experience for everybody. We much prefer places that are, like normal venues are kind of built for acoustics, built for presentation, kind of built for visual sightlines and so on and so on. So the convention hall was kind of always difficult to fit into. And we also wanted to be able to fit in more people and also travel to different locations. We knew that seeing a live event was an incredibly rewarding experience. And if we only limited that to the fans in Seattle, we felt like it was kind of limiting our appeal across the country. So, that's why we made the decision in 2015 to go to Madison Square Garden for our summer final, which was, again, kind of an unbelievable moment. I actually was lucky enough to be the project owner for that event, and so I was kind of running the team there, and it was incredible. I mean, for anybody who's a sports fan, Staples Center is an incredibly important venue, but Madison Square Garden is a hallowed venue. It's almost mythological. And so to go there and to put on the show, we had, I think it was Billy Joel was performing like the 2 nights before us. And so we're like building our stage and everything. And the cool thing about Madison Square Garden that you don't really know if you haven't been backstage is that the backstage area off the floor is massive. And so they could actually have his entire like rollout set, and then we were building our set next to it. And so for a couple of days there, we were kind of there while his band and everybody was getting ready. And then eventually they're putting on the show while we're working. And so we can just kind of faintly hear the sounds of a concert going on while we're kind of finishing up the event. And then, we were on the next night, and, it was incredibly surreal. That was one of the first times that ESPN did a live spot from our finals. Rick Fox came out to that event and spoke to CLG and, kind of encouraged them. And then CLG won their first North American championship there. So, just for a variety of reasons, it was an incredibly successful event for us. And it kind of told us that, this is something that, we need to bring to different locations. We need to bring this to more people because, we're not going to get to do Worlds in North America every year, and we're not going to get to do MSI in North America every year. And so we need more ways to bring live League of Legends to folks in North America. And so, the success of that event, I think, galvanized us into, our then path towards, a whole bunch of different venues, everything from Vegas to Miami to Boston to Vancouver, to Oakland just a month or two ago. So, bringing those live events to different regions has been an awesome experience, and getting to see those fans and see their excitement when we come to town is constantly invigorating.
If you could compare the experience to, let's say, like running the 2015 summer playoffs at Madison Square Garden to your first LCS split event, or even a playoff event from the first season that you guys worked, could you compare that at all?
I think they're, yes, in the sense that they're both moments of incredible pride. I think, when I think back to that first even broadcast that we did, the very first day of the NALCS, and when we came back to the office after the broadcast was done, everyone was kind of giddy, and broadcast viewership numbers were way higher than we expected them to be, and we were just so excited that the show had gone well. We got an email from one of the tech managers at Riot, one of the tech service managers at Riot, that said that Riot's internet usage had quadrupled its previous peak while LCS was on, because so many people were watching LCS on one monitor and working on the other. And so he's like, we might have to figure out a solution to this because I can't pay for this bandwidth all the time. And so, coming back from that was, that was a giddy experience. We were just so excited. We almost didn't even know what was in front of us. But we just felt like it was something amazing and something worth chasing. So I kind of look at that and I think of that as, a younger, not more naive, but just, more inexperienced celebration. Madison Square Garden was kind of a turning point where, that to me was where it really kind of started to push us towards where we are today, which I sort of think of as like Esports 2.0. What we had in 2013 and 2014 was great. It was still, compared to today, relatively disorganized. Contracts were of mixed quality. There weren't a ton of lawyers or people that were kind of helpful in the ecosystem. In the very first season, you actually didn't even necessarily have to have a written contract with your team. So free agents were able to kind of switch teams mid-season, which we locked down pretty quickly. But so there were a lot of pieces that we didn't necessarily understand. I think by the time we got to MSG in 2015, we kind of knew what we had. We knew what the product was, and so being able to see it realized at that level was incredibly impressive and incredibly invigorating. And it also kind of spoke to us that we could, safely start to think about franchising and think about taking other steps towards, maturity. And so, without that event going so well, I'm not sure we would have felt as comfortable, greenlighting franchising or, building the studio that we did here in LA. And, I think in a lot of ways that was the turning point for us. As much fun as, starting LCS was, that was the start of a train ride, and MSG was an inflection point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was gonna bring up the franchising next, because that was a really recent change. This is that was announced in 2017, but 2018 has kind of been the
launch year.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So it's been probably a crazy year for you, with the franchising and the shakeup and the teams that are competing in the LCS now.
Yeah, for sure.
But can you explain how the franchising works and how it really the NALs or just the LCS in general?
Sure. So basically, from the start of the league in 2013 until the end of the year last year, we had a system in place called promotion relegation. And what that meant was, at the end of the year, the bottom X number of teams, for a while it was 3, it eventually dropped to 2. So the bottom 3 or 2 teams would essentially have to play to regain their spot in the NALCS against top amateur teams. And what that did for us was allow, underperforming, poorly investing or just, kind of like otherwise bad organizations to filter themselves out. Because they eventually would lose out in these promotion tournaments and they wouldn't be able to kind of win their way back in. So for us, that was an incredibly valuable tool towards improving the quality of our ownership group. Now, franchising closed that door. And franchising was what we did to say, we think that we can get to the 10 right owners in the group, the 10 correct partners for us, who are going to be able to help us build this into a long-term success. And so what we did throughout 2017 was take applications, did countless interviews, background checks, credit check, all sorts of investigation into who these applicants and applying groups were and what their intentions were, why they wanted this, why they wanted to grow. And so based on those investigations, we accepted essentially about half of the old teams and about 4 or 5 new teams. And letting go some of the teams that had been in the league and just weren't selected for the franchise spot was certainly difficult. And we continue to appreciate their help in helping to build this product that we were able to then take towards the franchising direction. And we made sure that those teams were well compensated on their way out for their efforts in building this. But yeah, so franchising is essentially a 10-team system with no promotion relegation where teams are, in for perpetuity. We have a lot of shared economic assets. So we have, revenue sharing between, the league and the teams. The teams have to account for a certain percentage of their revenue to go to players to ensure that players are paid a certain amount. So it's really just a system that's designed to try and align the interests of all parties in the ecosystem, whether that be Riot, whether that be teams, whether that be the players themselves. We're just trying to make sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone's building towards kind of the same view of success, and we're all helping each other get there faster.
Absolutely. One of the things that was incredibly interesting to me is with the new teams that were accepted for with the franchising, all 4 of them have ties to professional sports. 3 of which they're owned by NBA teams, unless I've got that mistaken.
No, I think it's either by the NBA team or by the same ownership group.
So, and I feel like professional sports interest in esports has been something that's been talked about, for at least the last 10 years, especially with, like you said, ESPN coming and participating in your the playoffs. So I'm not surprised to see that they're involved, but can you talk about how those partnerships work?
Sure. Our franchise partners are included in a lot of our decision making. We bring them in, every month or two to talk through challenges that the league is facing. And, what we tried to do with the ownership group that we put together was put together a diverse ownership group that was going to be able to work through a variety of challenges together. Mm-hmm. And so, we didn't want all NBA teams, but we also didn't want no NBA teams because we felt like there was some knowledge to be gleaned from people who were involved in the NBA. Similarly, we wanted people from tech and people from, entertainment, people from a variety of different fields, because we just felt like it was going to help us improve the way that we approach our business. So, having those NBA owners in place has been great because they've been incredibly informative, incredibly supportive, and they're going to help us, grow our business and develop our players.
Seeing the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors and the Cavs, those are just such big names, and for them to have such a vested interest in the longevity of the LCS itself is amazing to me in 2018, I guess. Yeah,
well, the average demographic of an esports fan is considerably younger than an NBA fan, so part of it's about diversifying your business interests, I think.
Absolutely. And so how has the franchising affected this season that you guys are neck deep in? Because Worlds is,
Worlds actually going on right now.
Right. Literally right now. So can you talk about how that's affected this season and what you guys have taken away and are looking forward to with Worlds wrapping up?
Yeah, I think it was interesting because you saw teams that were able to take more risks. I think before, the thing that every team wanted to avoid at the utmost was promotion relegation. And so they would make short-sighted or short-targeted decisions just to avoid promotion relegation. And so you'd see top teams lending out their best player. You'd see bottom teams, mortgaging the house to kind of pay for a player to just try and sneak into seventh place or sneak into eighth place, whatever was needed to avoid those matches. And with franchising, they don't have to worry about that anymore, because even if you finish last, you're still here next year. So it allowed teams a lot more freedom to experiment with their lineups and really try and find the most competitive lineup. Because at the day, they're still incentivized to win, so they're still trying to win, but they have a little bit more freedom to try and figure out the right way to do it. So I say that's probably been the biggest part. Outside of that, we've had a ton more contact between Riot and the owners than we did before, which I think is great. Those guys are our partners, and we all need to be on the same page with the direction that the business is going. And so without regular meeting with that group, I think it would be a lot harder to ensure that we had kind of a consensus direction to take the league in.
And how has Worlds gone so far?
Pretty limited sample size. So we had the play-in groups concluded a couple days ago, and so I think most of the expected teams made it out of that, including the third North American team. And so now we're into the kind of the main group stage with 4 groups of 4. We're cautiously optimistic for the NA teams. We'll see how that goes. I think, Worlds is exciting this year because it's, I think, the first year that there hasn't been an overwhelming favorite from Korea. This year, I think the favorite is actually a Chinese team, and so we're excited to kind of see some more, diversity in the winner's circle, hopefully, and someone can knock off Korea before they get their 6th straight world championship. Just good to have some diversity. It's the most exciting time of year. You see upsets, you see big plays, you see individual players come out of nowhere. If you like March Madness, if you like the Super Bowl, there's something here for everybody that's just a sports fan. So it's a pretty special time.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've noticed as the years have gone on, and I'm sure this depends on where you live, but there are viewing parties for Worlds all over the place.
Yep.
At bars, if you go to if you're in college or live near a college town, chances are it'll be on somewhere. Some group will be holding a viewing party. And for the future, are there any changes that you guys are expecting past, for the next season? I'm not sure if you guys have looked past Worlds quite yet, especially with the big changes that you guys made just this season.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll have any kind of major changes going into 2019. I think a lot of this year was about sort of securing the teams, getting that first year in place. I would imagine next year is going to be a lot about, laying down the framework for some, potential bigger bets in 2020. So, I think there's a lot of really compelling opportunity in the space. We're just, we're taking our time. We want to make sure that our teams are in a good spot, our fans are in a good spot. We don't want to rush too much change, rush too much oversaturation of the space. So, when we have something to share, we'll definitely give you a call. But,
I just figured I'd ask.
I hear you. It's the right instincts.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time, Chris. I know that you have been incredibly busy. You were traveling just, I think, yesterday. Yep. So, and I'm sure you're off somewhere, if not tomorrow,
Monday.
But at some point this weekend, Monday. Yep. Oh, so you get to relax a little bit this weekend?
Yeah, I'm home for a weekend, which is nice.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap up?
No, just, obviously thank you so much for your time, and, thanks always to our amazing fans. They're the reason that we do this. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be so devilishly determined to put on a great show. So, for the millions of fans that continue to support us and, continue to watch Worlds and, scream your hearts out for, all the rises and falls of every team. Our deepest thanks. We really appreciate you guys, and hope you enjoy the rest of Worlds.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll have show notes for today's episode up on cakebites.com. Don't forget to like and follow the show on social media so you can keep up with updates, as well as on Twitch so you can get updates when I finally go live. And yeah, I think that's everything. See y'all next time.
With all the gaming sites full of editorials and fluff pieces, it can be hard to stay up to date on the news from the gaming industry. The Sometimes Geek podcast is a quick and easy listen each week that covers the major headlines and the occasional review, with thoughts from an everyday gamer. You can find us at sometimesgeek.com or on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.